This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri. I am your host, covering everything sport, international, local. How are you guys feeling out there today? Hope you're having a blessed day wherever you're tuned in around the world, whether it's 95 FM, Pulse95Radio.com, our app, Sharjah Broadcasting Authority. If you're watching us live on YouTube, great to see you guys here with me today. Shout out to everyone from Imran in New York, Masood in India, Megan over here, and everyone else who is locked in with Terry, Fatima, Maria, and everyone else. Shout out to you guys. Hope you're having a great day. On the show today, are we reading the food labels on the products we buy? How can something so important be so easily ignored when it comes down to our health and our fitness? Now, that's something that I picked up the other day. I was listening to a podcast by Dr. Hyman, and I thought straight away I have to bring this up on the show and do a little bit of research. Is it trusting the product or the brand we buy? And are we being fooled by packaging when it comes down to these things? So that's something I'm going to be touching on today. Now, it can also be affecting our children. If we have children, that's something else that you're doing. You're putting that into risk as well. So maybe a little bit of research might come a long way. Concussion has been discussed for many years, but are we doing enough to take precaution? The life of Aaron Hernandez was recently a documentary many of us spoke about on Netflix, which caused alarm with his tragic death, but a lot of it came from CTE and concussion and resulted to so many things. If you checked it out, let me know. What's up, Mustafa? I see you coming in on the room on the Instagram live at Omar Al-Duri. Guys, here's a little bit of a tune. You know, LMA, the Jamie Boy cover. Make sure you enjoy this tune, and I'll be right back with the first segment. Here we go.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with your boy Omar Al-Duri in the Half Sharjah on Pulse 95 Radio. Thank you very much for tuning in with me today. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about today was food labeling. Now, the reason why I say this is because we all go supermarket shopping every now and then, hopefully, guys, girls. When we do that, we step in and we normally stick to the same products we go to. But have we actually looked at the labeling on the products? What's in the product? And sometimes, you know, having had so many different guests on the show, we've spoken about nutrition, we've spoken about gut health, we've spoken about your metabolism. But one of the things that we sometimes don't do enough of is food labeling. Now, when it comes down to that, I was doing some research the other day and I came across a podcast by Dr. Mark Heyman. And what was really cool about this is he was discussing the things you should be avoiding when it comes down to food. Now, if you have children, then the responsibility comes even more. And that's something that, you know, I wanted to kind of pick your brain on. What's up, Sonam? Welcome to the room, man. Come on in. With the food labeling, there's a few things, and it comes in sauces, it comes in wholesome food, it comes in a lot of things that we sometimes, you know, miss. And I say that one of the things, if you've seen a lot of the documentaries as well, that you should avoid 100% is high fructose corn syrup. Now this starts to make you think about things. When you end up buying something as simple as a sauce to put or marinate your food in, high fructose corn syrup has a very dangerous level of ingredients which can actually hinder the body, hinder the gut health, really clog up your arteries. And that is in a lot of foods that we order, we eat, we buy from the supermarket. So next time you go into a supermarket and you go food shopping, this is the one thing I want you to actually look at, is high fructose corn syrup. The other thing is, now we all know about fried foods and what we should stay away from. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And that depends on, you know, how we're feeling on that day. But the trans fats and the hydrogenated fats is the things that we should kind of be worried about. Now, in some countries, these things are actually banned by food manufacturers. And this is what was really interesting about this podcast I was listening to, because it made me go away and research about some of these, you know, long terms that you see on the food labeling, which can really, really cost you, right? And I say this. Now, for example, I'm going to try and say the name, but it's called BHT for a reason. Butylate hydroxytoluene azodicarbonate, otherwise known as BHT. What is that? You're wondering? Well, it makes the foods fluffier, and food manufacturers in some countries have been banned from using them. And it will go as far as fining you or putting you in jail. Like, for example, if we look at Singapore. So if you actually put this in your food as a food manufacturer, you can get up to a 15-year jail sentence or a $450,000 fine. Now, this is telling you how detrimental detrimental it is to our system, to the fact where people are being jailed from it. Now, in some other countries, and the US was mentioned in this in the podcast that he was talking about, these products are fine and they're put in food all the time. So why would one country fine you and jail you for something that could really, really hinder your body and destroy your gut health, and some other countries kind of let it go? So that kind of really put things in perspective when I was looking into the food labeling, when I was looking into all these different things, because if you order online, or sometimes when you order online, you're not going to really see the ingredients, are you? I would encourage you to research it. If you use, an app, and I won't mention the app, Mustafa, but if you use an app that you sometimes enter your food in, and it tells you how many grams of everything, then that kind of helps you understand where the food is going from. Is it wholesome? Is it nutritious? Is it whole foods, nutritious, dense, whole food, something that's going to make you full for longer? Or is it something that's going to want you having more? Now, some of these chemicals that are added in the food, the preservatives and the additives, are things that want you to keep eating it, which might not always be good for you. It might be something that, in terms of your gut flora and your microbiome, actually hinder what you're trying to do, and then make you feel tired, make you feel lethargic, especially with what's going on now in the current pandemic around the world. Some people are still getting over, the symptoms. Or, for example, someone who's got COVID. I mean, I got it in December, and it took me a while to get over it. But this is what I'm saying. People are already battling their own battles. Try to put yourself in the best positions for your immune system to be able to handle whatever's thrown about it. It might not be corona. It could be a different virus, could be a cold, could be a flu. But try to put yourself in the best position possible. Try and take it seriously as well. Food labeling is something that we probably don't discuss enough about when it comes down to just daily conversation, because we're probably going to find something in there that we don't, we don't want to see. And you've often heard people say that if there's something in there that you don't know in terms of an ingredient, don't get it. If it's something that can be on a cupboard or a shelf for a very, very long time and has a long lifespan in terms of the storage, probably not going to be good for you. So there's something, just food for thought. Is there anything now that you can think of right now as we're speaking that that you wonder, what, maybe I should get rid of that or put that out? Sonam says, don't buy ingredients you can't pronounce. Absolutely. And sometimes, let's say, for example, if you like seasoning your food or you like putting things, if you can't pronounce or you don't know where the nutrition comes from in that product, probably not a good idea to have it there. Here's that for you guys. I'm going to play some of my favorite artists right now. Burna Boy, Pull Up, and we'll be right back after this. Enjoy, people.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Man. Welcome back to the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri. I feel big when I see people from all around the world tuning in. I'm not going to lie. I get quite excited. As we say in the UK, I get gassed. I get gassed when I see people from New York, like Imran, or Florin, from Jersey, Adil. Then you've got, obviously, Debo in Florida, and then I see Masoud in India, and I see Ruthless Ryan, man like Ruthless Ryan, in the building, all the way from the UK, a boxing legend, at the Instagram Live, and Omar Al-Duri with me. And right now, this is what I'm talking about when it comes down to what you guys bring to the table. The flavor is on point, and we were speaking about food labeling today. Now, if you haven't checked out the podcast by Dr. Mark Hyman, he was speaking about food labeling, and he was talking about, are we looking into the ingredients that we're bringing in to our kitchens, to our families, to our friends? All these kind of things is really important that we don't actually spend enough time looking at. And that was the first segment. But remember, guys, if you do miss our show, don't worry, you can catch us on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud if you like a podcast, or even head over to the YouTube channel. Support your boy at Pulse 95 Radio, Omar Al-Duri Halftime Show. Click, share, like, and do the thing, right? Okay. So one of the things we don't really hear enough about, and sometimes try and mask it, is concussion. Now, recently I watched a documentary called The Life of Aaron Hernandez, which was super interesting when it came down to this person's remarkable story. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out on Netflix. He's an American footballer, or he was an American footballer that was very, very talented, up and coming, superstar, someone that really, covered a lot when it came down to his college program, him winning Super Bowl, doing everything. It was something special, and unfortunately, when you play sports that are contact, like American football, like rugby, all these kind of things, you end up putting yourself in danger of clashing heads, clashing bodies. You know, the body takes a lot of pressure. But one of the things assessing this person's life is the brain damage he had received throughout his sports career. And in his sports career, what happened from that is, you know, he ended up in the wrong crowd, he mixed up with wrong people, and after, you know, he tragically committed suicide, what happened then is they studied his brain. They asked permission from his family if they can study his brain. They studied his brain and they saw the amount of damage that was in there. Now, why is this important? Because it causes a lot of people to think of, you know, the repercussions of concussion, and why now, even for example in football, they're doing a concussion sub, which they never had before, which allows you to actually substitute the player that's had a head collision, for example, and not put pressure on him to stay because you might have used up your substitutes. So there were so many interesting factors here when it came down to, you know, Aaron Hernandez. But obviously there were things that, you know, he shouldn't have done. He was convicted for murder. There were so many different factors, and that's not excusing anything to do with that. But what it does tell us is how serious this can be when it comes down to brain damage. And so when I was watching that, and I saw that nowadays there is a lot about, you know, concussion in sport, about brain damage, about how we can avoid that, what we can do to keep the tests going to make sure that those athletes or those people are in the right hands. The medical team has to be on point, and the players or the athletes don't have to be pressured to get back in and continue, because normally you'd say, you know, oh, just man up or do what you got to do to be able to get to a certain level. But if you haven't checked out that documentary, it was very, very interesting. There were so many messages within that documentary that allowed you as the viewer to be able to understand the complexity in this man's brain. So I want you to guys, if you have checked it out, text me on 4215 Ittasalat or slide into my DMs at Omar Duri and let me know what's going on. Ruthless Ryan is trying to put me off my radio. Omar needs to stop looking at his phone because he's getting very close to laughing. I'll try not to laugh, you know, because it's about 227 episodes in, Gyro. But I'm happy that you tuned in. So in the first episode, we talked about 3 foods to avoid when it came down to food labeling. The second episode, we spoke about concussion and CTE and the life of Aaron Hernandez. If you haven't checked out the documentary, go and check it out on Netflix, and how important it is to manage concussion and brain damage when it comes down to sports that involve you putting that under risk. And then next up, we're talking about the UAE as they look forward to playing India in a friendly in March. And Van Marwijk resumes preparations for the qualifiers and World Cup. Don't go anywhere, folks. We got some Stormzy playing for you. I know you like your Stormzy. Enjoy that, and I'll be right back after this. Peace.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Yes, we are back. Welcome back to the Halftime Show. Wicked show we've had so far, talking about the 3 foods to avoid when it comes down to food labeling. When you're going food shopping and you go to the supermarket, are you really looking at the back of the label, or are you just restacking what you've had before? Be honest now with me, folks. And the other thing was how dangerous high fructose corn syrup can be for you when it's in everything, in your sauces, in your cereal, all sorts of sugar, all sorts of stuff that you should probably be staying away from is in your products. Make sure you check that out. Second segment, we spoke about CTE, concussion, and even an example of the athlete who tragically passed away, the life of Aaron Hernandez, who brought that to the surface when they experimented on his brain after he passed away. They actually did tests and exams on the brain, and it showed a lot of brain damage, causing so many different characteristics to come out where we wouldn't have even known. Be kind, folks. On segment 3, now the UAE obviously is something that, you know, promotes their sports. You got so many talented people here from all over the world that come to the UAE, that help with the development program, that help work on their game. Now, one of the things that obviously the pandemic has done is it's kind of put things on hold. It's kind of made us all reset in our methods, in our ways, in what's important, in how we can do things, in what we were doing before. But the UAE get to play India in a friendly on March 29th. Now, Van Marwijk resumes preparation qualifiers for the World Cup and Asia Cup. And what does this mean for the nation? You know, having put things on hold, not being able to travel. With travel comes experience. With experience comes knowledge, and with knowledge comes, development. And there's so many factors here that go hand in hand. But with people having to stay in their respective countries, it's kind of made us all reset our methods. But even though a lot of research has been done, a lot of, progressive learning has been done, further education has been done, universities have been offering courses to people all around the world to be able to enhance their brain, to be able to keep them engaged and develop. And some of them were even free. There was one that we did, I remember, what was it? The Ministry of Happiness, which was, I did it last year. But there were so many different kind of courses that were out there for everyone to be able to be grateful, be mindful, understand more of the psychology of what we are going through, because through a pandemic and through, people not knowing what's going to happen next, it kind of caused a lot of uncertainty. But I think Brian Van Marwijk is someone that has done a lot in terms of his career, his experience. He's worked all around the world, and for him to be able to resume preparations, I think that's a very good thing for the UAE. I think the UAE, have a lot of talent here. I've been very fortunate enough to work with a lot of different athletes here, especially the UAE women's national team. I was there for a couple of years, and just seeing the growth, seeing, people like Alia, Hanoud, Naima, Sheikha, all these people, come from, early stages and really turn out to be talented athletes, but also good human beings that are willing to learn and willing to develop. And that's something that I think with programs and with a lot of things that we've had to do, whether I'm not sure what they're doing now in-house with the UAEFA, but when I was there, what would happen is we'd put them through a program in camps where we would develop them. We'd end up doing all their strength and conditioning, all their technical work, all their fitness and stuff. I used to be in charge of all that when it came down to the women's football and the women's game here. And I could see so many, athletes that are just developing. We did so many good things with those people, and I was so proud of how far they've come. And I'm guessing now what's happening with, following the pandemic is they're doing something similar where they keep them at the headquarters, whether it's in Abu Dhabi or whether it's in Dubai or Sharjah or wherever it is. They keep them at the headquarters and they train them there, so then therefore they're all together and they wouldn't have to keep going back and forward or mixing with people and respecting social distancing. So I think with Van Marwijk now being able to resume his preparations and being able to focus on the Asian Cup and the World Cup, the good thing is everyone's kind of in the same boat in terms of not being able to travel or, gain an advantage through that. Everyone's had to kind of work in-house, and that's going to be interesting to see what he does in his preparations for the friendly coming up against India here. And then since then as well, we're also looking at, a lot of different factors with the campaigns, with all the different teams that's happening here. But I think what I like about, Van Marwijk is it's his second stint with the UAE team. So he would have understood, maybe written the wrong that he made the mistakes in the beginning and kind of understood what he needs to do to be able to go far in developing that. The Indian team, now being coached by Igor Stimac, is expected to land in the UAE in March and holding a training camp prior to their friendlies against Oman and the UAE. Van Marwijk, meanwhile, is expected to add fresh faces to his squad of core players by the middle of March. It gives him time to kind of assess and see, what's out there, what's fresh, what's new, and what he can bring to the table. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. What do you guys think? Are you guys looking forward to seeing the UAE back in action? Let me know, 4215 Itasalat, or slide into my DMs as you're doing right now. I'll see you right after this. Some JP Cooper. Let's chill and enjoy this.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri. Shout out to my boy Derek, all the way in London, who's tuned in, and Ish as well, who normally tune into the shows, man. I miss those guys. When you grow up with people and you're not in the same country, you tend to value them a lot more, especially with Derek and Ish, his son. Right, so we were talking today about a couple of things. We're talking about food labeling. Are we paying attention to the ingredients in the food that we're buying from the supermarket? How dangerous can one product be? It can mess up your whole gut health. It can make you feel tired. It can make you feel lethargic, lazy. It can affect your gut flora. It can affect your microbiome. There's so many things in there that, we kind of have to be very, very careful with. So something as simple as, extracting, high fructose corn syrup from your food, from the labeling, from, the high processed foods that we kind of end up getting, So that's something that we spoke about in the first segment. If you did miss it, I see you just walking in now. Check out the YouTube, the episodes on there, thanks to Super Mario and Gabby. In the second segment, we spoke about concussion, CTE, the importance of it. And recently I watched a documentary called The Life of Aaron Hernandez, and it was very powerful because, after the tragic ending to Aaron Hernandez, when they ended up examining his brain, they found that there was a lot of damage to it. Now, that's not excusing the things that he did, but it's also, a big wake-up call to the sports that we play and the things that we put ourselves through when it comes down to, mixed martial arts, boxing, American football, rugby, all these things, even football recently. So many things that, we can talk about. We also spoke about the UAE as they resume for the Asian Cup and the World Cup qualifiers, which is going to be very, very interesting. Shout out to Hatim as well, who's just joined in on the room. A couple of comments coming in now. Almas is saying it's disappointing because it's too expensive. There are so many areas I would love to work on to improve as a player, but my mom doesn't have the money for it. Well, you know what, Almas, you're doing a great job so far. I'm proud of your development. You've done so good, and a lot of the teams are very lucky to have you. Florin is saying, win as a team, lose as a team. Not a fan of the modern game and the way players and staff argue. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Florin, man. Florin was my right back when it came down to the college team we played for, and top athlete as well. And his brother was pretty good as well. Tunji was a superstar as well. So it was great to kind of play with him. But yeah, I think the new generation, and not to sound like old or anything, but the new generation in terms of what's expected, I think accountability goes out the window when it comes down to coaching. Having worked with kids, I loved working with kids. Back in London, I was a PE teacher there. And then even here, I was a director of an academy for a couple of years to design the program, develop it, and help with the youth. And there's a beautiful thing about children, especially the younger ages, when it comes down to their ability to learn, their ability to absorb information, and also how subtle their movement is when it comes down to performing on the pitch, whether it's training, fitness, conditioning, strength work, anything. It's really interesting to see how they work. But saying that, now there's no sense of accountability. I think it's very easy. We're under this illusion that we have to point fingers at someone. There's no taking responsibility for your own actions. It's more like, normally when a team loses, the coach played the wrong formation, or the staff didn't do this, or the team hasn't done that, or the club. There's always something, but it's hardly people that actually say, you know what, I'm someone that need to work on my own game, and when I do that, then I'll get better. And that's something that I think it's our responsibility as coaches, trainers, parents, whatever it is. You've got to kind of set that bar very early so that they can be responsible. So then when we're not around, they're able to do it on their own and hold themselves accountable. And that's, I think, one of the things that I kind of noticed a lot about, if someone does a mistake, how do you rectify it? Being on a course in London, I think it was before lockdown, before 2019, the head assessor, shout out to Pete, I'm going to try and get him on the show actually, he put us in groups to put forward an assessment, and when we were doing it, he just stopped 1 second, started shouting at one of the groups, and we just felt really vulnerable to what he was saying because we made a mistake. But actually we didn't make a mistake. He was showing us how it feels to be shouted at. And it was a very, very strong exercise. I thought that was fantastic the way he did that, even though I was in the group that he was shouting at. And the way he said, no, that's rubbish and everything, it just makes you think how we should be getting our message across to our kids, to our children, to get them to learn instead of the old school way that has to work and only one way. So that was very interesting. It opened my eyes when I was doing my license in the FA, in the Football Association. So that just tells you we have reached full time on the halftime show, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember, you can catch every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, 3 to 4. Coming up next is the afternoon Karak with Aisha Mazmi and Mika Latria. Sending you all the love. Hope you guys had an incredible day, and I will see you soon. Love and peace.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.